Hey guys and gals, or everyone else in between, welcome to Talking Time with Caffeine, the only podcast where stuff happens.
Yep.
We have a guest today. Introduce yourself, guest for today.
Heyo, I'm Momo Ass Kickin'.
Heyo.
That's Rouge Gunner.
Yeah, I found her and she followed me home. Just kidding. So do you have anything you want to talk about today?
Personally, no. Truthfully, half the stuff that I talk about is just random anyway.
So that's our catchphrase here. Enjoy the randomness.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So then I guess, Nick, you want to talk about greatest hits or something?
Schneck.
I guess he's gone right now.
Perfect.
Oh, joy. Alright, about you, Mario.
Well, I'm assuming that you play video games, right, Mama Ass Kicking?
Yeah, I'm actually, currently I'm playing one right now.
What stuff do you enjoy?
A little bit of everything.
Ah.
I just got Osiris New Dawn, off Steam's early release. And I'm not extremely great at keyboard PC gaming. I usually plug in my controller to play.
Yeah, me too. I'm just...
I'm not the true PC gamer. So I've been having issues with that. That and my laptop probably is not built to run that game. So it's laggy when I'm getting attacked, which doesn't help any.
You want a real PC gaming experience? Try playing a Mario game on the emulator on using a keyboard.
Oh, I'm sure.
I can't do it.
Well, it sounds like we're on the same boat because my laptop isn't necessarily built for gaming either. I'd say it's more just like a general-ish kind of computer, but it can handle some stuff like Premiere.
Well, so mine is technically a gaming laptop. It's a Dell. But my parents got it for me for my birthday because my old laptop, which I gave to Rouge Gunner, is a complete POS.
Oh, man.
Like, I couldn't run Sims on it.
I didn't even know they still made Dells.
Yeah, no, Dell's actually, Dell has become a lot more of a better computer.
I still remember the 90s when they were like, you got a Dell.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they got me this one after they had told me that I could pick out my new laptop, and I did a bunch of research, and then I was like, okay, so I think I actually found one. Like, let me know when you guys have time so that I can show it to you. And they're like, oh, yours is already ordered. And I'm like,
Oh.
Seriously?
Wow.
Like, okay, thanks. Thanks for telling me I could pick out my own laptop and then picking it for me, guys. You guys aren't even gamers. You don't know what I'm looking for. Thanks.
Damn, that sucks. Unless
Yeah.
they got a good one, but...
I mean, it's decent. There's a few games it won't run, but otherwise it does pretty well. It keeps up with it. Especially for going completely off of Wi-Fi. Like, sometimes I get better connection than Rouge does, and he has a hard line into the router.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, our friend of all of us has the best computer. He's on right now, but his internet's the worst. So.
Yeah. Like, it's Garbo. I actually used to have this Dell laptop as a kid, and it was just so terrible. Like, it was almost unusable. I don't even know how I got by with it. List of problems. It was falling apart. The hinge was completely broken, so like you had to lean the screen onto something. The charger, you had to have it in an extremely specific position, and even the littlest tap, done.
Yep.
And
what's funny is
wait, a couple other things. Keyboard was broken beyond repair. Like, it can kind of work, but certain keys just didn't cooperate at all. And the worst problem, had less than 1 gigabyte of RAM.
Well then.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Oh shit.
Currently, the system that I'm playing on is my Xbox 360, and like you're thinking like the slick like last generation before Xbox One 360. No, this is like came in a bundle with Rock Band. It has Red Ring of Death so many times, and I've been the one to fix it. The one time it happened on any of my siblings, they sent it in to go get a new one. New one came in, and it red ringed within a week. I was like, hey, I wonder if I can fix it. So I shut it off and turned it back on. And lo and behold, it's still here.
What? All you had to do was restart it, and it's like, oh, I can work now.
Basically, yeah.
Oh my god.
Do any of you have the privilege of trying to stream an online game using dial-up?
Yep.
Yeah, fun. Especially when you update patches.
Oh yeah.
I just had to turn my computer on at night, keep it loading, and not my parents to find out.
Right.
I'm like, don't answer the phone. Nobody call. Anybody.
I grew up. I mean, my bedroom's actually still where it was when I was a baby. I'm born and raised Coloradan, whereas all the rest of my family has been born somewhere else. Even though technically my mom is a born and raised Coloradan, she was born, she would have been a true Coloradan. She was adopted, so she was born in California, and then she was adopted and ended up in Oregon. And then she met my dad and ended up back in Colorado and everything. But then my parents decided, oh, hey, we'll look for her biological parents. And lo and behold, they're like an hour away from us.
Wow.
What, me?
No.
This?
Yeah.
Oh.
Half the people, like at least 3 or 4 people here, have roots in Colorado.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Where did you grow up in Colorado?
Arvada.
I was in Denver.
Yeah, right now we live in Westminster. I work at the Dave & Buster's in Westminster.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were in the or if it affected you in your area, but yesterday my friends had to deal with hail the size of golf balls.
That was basically like everywhere in Colorado besides where we live. Like, I'm not even kidding. Everyone's been talking about, oh my god, did you see the hail? Did you see the hail? And I'm like, we got rain. And it was literally like only like maybe a 10-mile radius that just got rain. Everywhere else got hail.
The same thing happened to us in my school years. Not hail, but like snow days. Every school around us had snow days one time, except for us in the middle, no snow day. We still went to school, but everywhere around, north, south, east, west, was canceled or delayed, but not us.
So, of course, I went to school in Jefferson County, and there's always the memes about like there's like a slight little bit of snow in Texas, snow day. There's a mountain of snow in New York, snow day. And then it's like, nope, you're going to drive on top of the sno to go to school still.
Well, actually, wait a minute.
Huh?
Oh, sorry, I came back unannounced. I just wanted to say a similar case to that happened with me about a month ago. Does anyone remember, like, when New York got those images in the New York skyline with, like, pitch black clouds covering it that looked very ominous?
Yeah.
So what happened there was, there was, I guess, a whole bunch of severe thunderstorms, complete with some twisters rolled through.
Well then.
And New York City had that looked like that. And then apparently my school, which is like in the middle of Connecticut, I actually got a whole bunch of emails from my school saying that, oh, the university suffered a whole lot of damage. We lost power in parts of the university. Meanwhile, my house, there was a bit of wind gusts for about a couple of minutes, but then after that, it just turned into a thunderstorm. That's it.
Well then. There was one time, like, the golf ball sized hail. It was like, oh jeez, almost 10 years ago. Like in the middle of June, like it is now, and same thing happened in Colorado. Just huge amounts of hail, snowstorm in the middle of June. It looked like, with the like amber glow that you get when there's a tornado touching down. And my parents, as smart as they are, and they grew up, and they lived in Kentucky for some time, so they know about Tornado Valley. My dad was born in Kansas, and they stood at our backyard doors, which are completely made of glass. They stood and watched it, and all of the rest of the houses on our street, like, they had multiple windows broken.
Oh.
And this was when we had wood siding. Oh wait, no, it wasn't. This was like right after we switched from wood siding to stucco. So we had like no damage to our house except for one window. It's a double paned window. It broke the outside pane.
Oh wow!
I mean, that just did not sound wise to stand at the glass doors like that. Like,
no,
in fact, I've actually told stories before where my freaking school, probably because that kind of weather doesn't happen around here very often, my freaking school was using outdated textbooks from the 70s that claimed that you had to open all the windows in your house or else your house would explode.
Oh yeah, for tornadoes, yeah.
Yeah.
A few years ago, when I was still using Wi-Fi at McDonald's, it was better than my parents' dial-up. I was on my laptop, and it was like, I saw the rain all of a sudden shift sideways. I'm like, what the hell is that about? I didn't even realize that a tornado went right above our heads, right down the street, and I didn't even know there was a tornado there. It destroyed a building like 2 blocks away from where I was.
Damn. That's crazy.
Yeah, it destroyed the Frickers, right? Like, they rebuilt it.
What's funny about my parents, like, standing at a window and everything, so although tornadoes in Colorado are very unlikely, the school that I went to once a year would have a tornado drill, just in case. And
see, I never had those.
Right?
We
so
did.
I learned what we're supposed to do, and my parent, like, our furnace room is completely concrete. Like, all of the siding and everything is concrete, and it's the only room in the house that's like that. So my parents told me, because I came home one day, and I was like, hey, guess what we did in school today? And they're like, what? And I'm like, I learned what to do when a tornado touches down. And they're like, oh yeah, go to the basement, go to the furnace room. And I'm like, okay, cool, awesome, now I know what to do at home. And I was at summer camp when this happened, so I was up in Bailey, Colorado, like 4 hours away from Arvada. And this storm happened. I didn't even know. It like ended up raining like one day that I was up there. And when we came home, there was still like trees that were down in yards and stuff just because people didn't want to clear them out. And like leaves covered the streets. My parents took photos, so it was not nearly as bad as the day it had happened, but they told me about it, and they're like, oh yeah, and our stupid asses stood there. And I looked at them, and I'm like, really? Like, you told me where to go, and then you stood there? And they're like, yeah, it was probably a tornado, too. I'm like, great, good job, guys. And then later, earlier that summer, we had driven through Kansas. I forget where we were heading. Oh, we were going to Missouri. That's how we got there. That's why we got there. So we were heading to Branson, Missouri for my dance nationals, and we went through Kansas, and my dad pointed out a funnel cloud. And he's like, oh, hey, look at that. And I was like, what's that? And he's like, it's a funnel cloud. And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, it becomes a tornado. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Why were we driving closer to that? Should we be driving away from that?
No, it was just something that we ended up passing, like, under while we were on the highway.
Oh.
Lots of those videos are on YouTube.
I had a tornado. I was at camp and a tornado hit my first year at camp one time, and we all would go in the basement room of the cabins, and during that time, half of us all got lice because somebody had lice there. We were all in the room together, so the lice just spread like crazy.
Ew.
Yeah, I have never actually experienced them. Like, I've had numerous close calls over the years where there'd be watches in my area, but then nothing came of it. Then there's the most recent examples, the story I told earlier, where aside from a few gusts of wind, there was pretty much nothing. The only time I was definitively under a warning was one Saturday when I was at marching band practice, where apparently there was a warning, except we go outside and nothing happened.
What about hurricanes? You live near the coast, don't you? You know, us do.
Talk to me. I'll talk later.
Well,
what?
Schnick has to talk to someone else.
Okay.
There's only one incident I can think of in my life that pretty much came close to tornado-like weather. It was when I was still a kid in elementary school. The school was so close to my house that you could literally say it was up the street, walking distance. Like, it was... Actually, let me give a better example. So close that you could hear the school bells going off from my house, or my old house. But anyways, so it was like the end of the day, but instead of me being able to just leave the school, they stopped everybody and told us to assume the position that they make us do during tornado drills. So they make us do that until our parents come, and one by one, students leave until eventually my parents came. And I think what happened outside was just like, I think it might have been so dark to where it was like nighttime almost. So that, and it was very windy. That's all I really remember because it was so many years ago. But
right.
Yeah, that's the only time I can remember it being tornado-like weather. Yeah, there were other bad instances that we've had where it was very windy, but I don't think it really came as close as very, like, so dark to nighttime, like, weather, I guess, if that even makes any sense.
I'm back. So yeah, to answer Vandelia's question, I have been hit by hurricanes before. Like, 3 times to be specific. One was just a tropical storm, one was a Category 1, and then the other was the infamous hurricane.
Katrina?
No, it was Sandy.
Shut up, babe.
So, I actually, on a previous podcast episode, I actually did show some home video recordings of the hurricane when it passed over, as well as the immediate aftermath.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like, that was probably the biggest storm damage I've ever seen around here. Like, in one of the videos, me, my sister, and another friend of mine who's appeared on the podcast before, we were running around the neighborhood, and then we actually went up to like an entire tree that fell over in a way to where it took the ground underneath with it, and it formed like this makeshift little cave hill thing.
Wow.
The only difference is that got fixed up fairly quickly.
Hey Mario, question for you fast. So you can move our names under our pictures or they're all in a row?
Possibly. I mean, it's probably going to look very small if I try that.
I was wondering. Yeah, I don't remember it very well, but when I was a little kid, we had a very small earthquake here.
That's the only thing that I haven't really experienced, because my parents had they have a timeshare at Disney World in Orlando, so I've experienced tropical storms a lot, because we'd be riding roller coasters and they'd go through and we'd just decide to dance in the rain because we're weirdos. But otherwise, I've experienced tornado-like weather, and that's about it.
Oh, I was at Disney World last September.
Nice.
I think Snick was there last year too.
I used to go to Disney on a freaking annual basis, but now I'm voluntarily staying out of it because kind of sick of it. Like that's what going to Disney for like 20 years straight does to you.
Yeah.
Like they actually went. My mom, my dad, my sister, all of the family, they went. I just simply stayed behind and watched my dog.
I've only gone twice. Once when I was 12 and once last year.
I couldn't even imagine going to Disney parks annually. It just seems like something that would be very hard to do.
Pretty much the only time I expect to go back to Disney is for my mom's 60th birthday, because of course she wants to have a Disney princess goddamn birthday party. And because she's like a big Disney fanatic, so I guess that's to be expected.
Yeah, that's where me and my family are. Like, of course we like the live action movies more than the animated movies, but we still like the animated.
I tell you, I went to go see Incredibles 2 today, and they had a fucking trailer for Wreck-It Ralph 2.
I forgot to tell you, Schnick, don't spoil that movie, please.
I'm not going to spoil the movie.
Thank you.
All I'm going to tell you is that it was good.
In there in the trailer.
You see all the Disney princesses in the trailer, and here's the thing. While the princesses that were already in 3D, like Rapunzel and Elsa, they looked fine. The princesses that were once 2D turned into 3D, I gotta tell you, I think they looked better in the KH games. I don't know, they just looked ugly. I don't know if it was Shrek Extra Large influence right there, but there was something about it probably had something to do with their eyes. It felt like they had these big goo eyes that didn't fit
It's probably exactly that, because when you look at Snow White, they purposely made her eyes small so that it seemed more like she was childlike, because in actuality all of that crap happened to her when she was 16.
Well, a lot of the Disney princesses were in their late teens, probably.
Well, so Rapunzel was technically it said her 18th birthday and everything, but she really looks and acts like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, well, I don't know, just something looked off about all the Disney princesses that were converted to 3D. It may have had something to do with the eyes. Maybe I'm just remembering it wrong. It also could have been to reference Walking Dead, even though I hate that show. It's as if Negan took his freaking baseball bat and then knocked them in the head where their eyeballs kind of popped out.
You
also have to think of that Walt Disney legitimately drew Snow White and Aurora and all of the 2D princesses. As long as he was alive, he drew them first, and then animators did it based off of him. Now they have an animator who can't replicate Disney anymore.
That's kind of unfortunate.
He's not there to be oh no, you need to make the eyes slightly smaller, see how mine are like this.
I wonder
that actually is pretty unfortunate, because I do think the KH games did it a lot better, even back in the PS2 days.
I'm so excited for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, the whole and that's the thing, when it comes to modern Disney movies, I just don't really like the animated ones, because it's at the point where I can't differentiate Pixar from Disney themselves.
You think they still hand draw these things, or is it all
Oh,
computers now?
they probably hand draw them for storyboards, but then that's about it. Like, probably Moana was like the most recent movie where the hand drawn animators were even given a remote thing to do, when Dwayne Johnson's character's tattoos were animated and hand drawn.
Well, storyboards are pretty much required regardless if you're doing 2D or 3D, I'd argue.
I mean,
well,
they flat out
so if you think about it this way, like, besides, like, actual photography, if you were to get, like, a piece of art commissioned and it's a cartoon, they draw it out first, and then they'll digitally trace it. So they always hand draw it first, even if it's just like, okay, I want to know, is the head gonna look like this first?
Yeah.
So... I mean, like,
I don't know.
When
Just
when you
something
think
about
of it like that, it
Disney
makes a lot
princess
more
appearances
sense.
and Wreck-It Ralph looked off.
Well, I mean, you also have to think, like, Wreck-It Ralph has to make it look more like it's a cartoon game. So those Disney princesses, if you were to have a Disney app, that's what they would look like in the app.
Weird.
Like, it's not like they're all in the same room. There's no movie yet where they're all in the same room. So how is it possible unless it was like an app? Like
Yeah, there's
Disney,
that.
Disney had a really good idea. The second to last time I went to Disney World, which was like when I was 11 or something, they had created this like online like personable game, and it was Magic Kingdom. It basic, like, that's where it was set up, was Magic Kingdom, and you gotta pick up your own character, you had missions to complete, and you could like do it in real time too. And then they shut it off after a year. And I think it was just because like there was in-game transactions, but it was based, like, it was geared entirely towards children. Like, towards kids like 12 and under. So
Microtransactions for everybody.
Yeah, even the kiddies where if they get the parents' credit cards, they're going to be the next kid on the news station.
basically, yeah.
Wait, what the hell? What's this? Did somebody else come in?
No,
No, that's my boyfriend in the background.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Our other guest star, Offspring.
Co-guest star.
Assistant guest star.
Yeah, basically. He'll only chime in every once in a while, and you'll probably hear him talk to his chat, because he's playing Borderlands 2 right now.
Yeah, well, other topic. Stick, you said you want to talk about greatest hits?
Oh yeah, greatest hits copies of games, because I wanted to bring it up because Sony announced that they're basically bringing the greatest hits back for the PS4, though they're retitling it PlayStation Hits, but the idea is basically the same. They take a whole bunch of games that sold well and re-release them with special box arts, and they're sold at a discount.
Oh, like the, okay.
Yeah, like, the one thing that I never got was why so many people hate the greatest hits box art. Like, even like everyone just acts so elitist about it. Like, oh, greatest hits box art, it looks ugly, it sticks out. Why do they change the box art?
People are weird.
Yeah, like, I've never personally minded greatest hits copies of games because, in all honesty, way I see it, it adds more life to the stuff on my shelf. Like, instead of everything just looking at generic black, and then you have, like, some red, some yellow, some gray, some green, some...
Would Mario All-Stars for SNES be considered greatest hits and has all the Mario games up to that time?
I mean, it may have hit Nintendo's Player's Choice at the time. I don't know.
Is that what greatest hits is? Like the same thing with the music? Like,
no, greatest hits is more or less when a game sells a whole lot of copies and then it's re-released at a budget price.
Like for Xbox 360, they have the platinum hits.
Yeah, and then Nintendo originally had Player's Choice, but then beginning with the Wii, they changed it to Nintendo Selects.
Yep.
And then Sony had the greatest hits from the PS1 to the PS3, but now they changed it to PlayStation hits for the PS4.
Personally, in my opinion, I think
makes sense because of the fact that there's a lot more, like, there's a lot of games that are now throughout all of the platforms that it may not be the greatest on Xbox One, but it's the greatest over here.
Personally, in my opinion,
But
I
they
think
did announce a
PlayStation
fair
Hits is
amount
a
of
stupid name.
games.
Yeah.
Even then, in my personal opinion, I think they waited too long to introduce the line because I already own a great majority of the games that are a part of it. Probably the only one I don't have is Yakuza 0.
Makes sense.
I
wouldn't mind getting that because I've been playing the remake of the first one.
I'm not sure I ever owned unless you count the Mario All-Stars, I don't think I've ever owned the greatest hits thing.
I mean, while the Wii version of Mario All-Stars made the Nintendo Selects.
Even though the Wii version of Mario All-Stars is a piece of crap because it's
more
just
or
a
less
copy-paste.
emulation of the Super Nintendo version.
They changed absolutely nothing.
What's the difference also is like updating games between just porting a game and remixing it too. Like the All Stars is like a remix almost because it takes the instead of the 8-bit graphics of the Nintendo, the Mario Brothers game is actually more Super Nintendo-ish like.
I personally call it just a remake because it pretty much is what it is. But it's also bundled in a collection.
Right, but it's still not just a port because the graphics aren't like squares.
Well, yeah, but that's why I say remake because just like you said, it is not a port. In fact, I think they even changed certain things that you wouldn't really be able to notice unless you took a deep look at the game, like physics, for example. Those are slightly different. Otherwise, yeah. Pretty much same game, just different graphics. I seriously hated it when they had that game on the Wii for the 25th anniversary of Mario. That was just a horrible move on their part.
They just ported it over.
It was literally a port. So it went so far to be an exact port that when you look at the control scheme, like, you know how when you select a game, it will show you, like, controls on the bottom left of the save file thing? Yeah, on the Wii version, it's still the SNES controller. Not even kidding. And not only that, but the other stuff they included was also total garbage because, oh, look, we have a soundtrack. Barely includes a lot of the songs. And it's just not a very good soundtrack in general. And then, oh look, we got a history booklet. Yeah, a history booklet that vaguely covers things up to that point in time.
Like, Jesse's in chat talking about it.
Like, give me a break. Like, literally, Flipnote Studios' How to Draw Mario Flipnote was a lot more of a celebration than the 25th anniversary game.
Jesse says the Game Boy remakes were better.
Are you talking about what are they called? Are you talking about the Game Boy Advance ones? No, that's what you would be talking about. What am I saying? All-Star remakes changed the physics a bit too much. They changed the physics too much. Not really. There's like subtle changes, but otherwise it's not that big.
So Mo, what was your first console you played?
Me? Oh wait. Oh, sorry, I misheard.
The first console that I played on was PlayStation 1.
Mine was Atari, and then NES.
Well, so we had a Nintendo 64, and then we're pretty certain, although my parents still think it's probably somewhere in our storage room, we're pretty certain that my brother, once PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox came out, ended up selling it so that he could play games, because we have a GameStop extremely close to our house. Like, it's like a 10-minute walk from our house. So we are fairly certain that he did that. When he did that, he also took like my Simpsons Hit and Run and a few other of my like PlayStation games and went and traded those in. Thank God he never touched Sly Cooper or Spyro. Because if he had, I probably would have flipped out like really fast.
Rip Hit and Run, because that's a legitimately good Simpsons game.
I actually have it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, like, it was maybe a couple years later, before PlayStation 3 came out, like, just before it did. Since, if I remember correctly, it came out like a year or two after Xbox.
So you get
too far after.
Did you get the older version where it's compatible, or the newer version where it's not?
Oh, for PlayStation 3, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the older version is the one that's backwards. It's completely backwards. It goes all the way to the original PlayStation.
Well, all PS3s are like that.
Well, all PS3s can play PS1. It's only like the earlier models that can play PS2 games, and later on they took out the PS2 compatibility because it was literally cheaper to make a PS3 that couldn't play PS2 games and then just have people buy a PS2 separately.
Well, it was also because the fact that with PlayStation 3 games, they started to add the Blu-ray component. That's why PlayStation 3s became Blu-ray compatible for DVDs. And that's why it was cheaper to make it so that it wasn't backwards compatible, because then they had to make it where it could play both normal DVDs and Blu-ray DVDs, and just making it play one set of DVDs makes it easier.
I mean, well, the thing is, all PS3s can still play DVD movies.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Like, they had to put in, like, a special emulation software for PS2. That was... Yeah. Like, I think they put... Like, I think the earliest PS3 models had the actual PS2 hardware compressed for the system, but then the limited edition 80GB model that was released to promote MGS4 had a more primitive one that more or less was just a PS2 emulator. And in fact, PS2 games on that model run not as good as the original models.
Right. So, my sister still has her PlayStation 3, and I would go and bring the Spyro games, the original Spyro games, over to her place to play them, because otherwise we'd be playing on our Xbox 360 like Left 4 Dead or something.
Yeah.
I still really enjoy playing. I just enjoy single-player things where I don't have to be online.
Yeah, I think the Wii could play GameCube games, and the Wii U could play Wii games, but not GameCube games.
That in itself was a bit of a story with me. That, like, I never owned a GameCube as a kid because my dad claimed that PlayStation 2 was enough. And then when I later convinced him to get me a Wii instead of a PS3, which was probably a bit more of a wise decision because there was nothing I would have played on the PS3 back then. But, right. So when I found out the Wii could play GameCube games, I was immediately excited. I got myself a GameCube controller. He ended up getting a cheap memory card, and I later got the real one down the line. So I was playing GameCube games on the Wii for a while, but then my sister wanted to take the Wii with her to college. So I was already set with original Wii games since I got the Wii U. But for GameCube games, I mean, especially since I was playing a Shrek game on the GameCube at the time for YouTube, and I couldn't just abandon that. So I ended up getting myself a GameCube with a Game Boy player since my dad sold all my GBA systems.
Right.
So now I use the GameCube, and then I have a Wii U for Wii games.
Nice.
Then again, I am able to run Dolphin for games that are like super expensive.
Right.
Like, I don't have the best computer. Like, I think Brandon probably has the only one with a mega machine. But mine is at least able to run stuff from, like, 2010 and before at pretty high settings.
Nice.
So I can play... So, like, Adam, didn't you say you can't run a PS2 emulator? Well, I can. Same goes with Dolphin, which is probably more... Which is even better because the GameCube hardware was more demanding.
Well, I'm pretty sure my computer would not be able to handle PS2, because I remember trying Wii one time, and oh man, it was not good. So I'm just assuming PS2 doesn't work. That's even if I could get emulation. I don't want to bother with BIOS stuff, though.
I think the highest I've tried is probably N64, unless I count DS, unless DS is more than 64 is.
Right, yeah.
I tried 3DS and PSP, you know, those don't work very well on my computer.
3DS must have been a failure.
And I tried a PSP emulator, but it didn't work too well either.
PSP works for me, too. Like, I got Crisis Core running on it. First time I got to play the game in a while since my PSP's face button stopped working.
So about you ever emulate any games?
I emulated one on my phone because my siblings owned the Game Boys, and by the time I was old enough to have a personalized gaming system, I ended up with the original Nintendo DS, and I got 0 Pokemon games for it. So I wanted to play the OG Pokemon, so I got an emulator on my phone to play Pokemon Red. And then my phone broke, so I had to factory reset it, and I couldn't remember how I got the emulator on my phone, because that was when I was with my ex, and he helped me do it. It's probably the nicest thing he ever did for me.
Yeah, I haven't really played any Pokemon games since the Gold and Silver days. I played Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, and then I pretty much lost interest after that.
Yeah, I worked at GameStop for the most recent release of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So.
Yeah, the last games I played was like Alpha Sapphire, and then I just kind of lost interest at the beginning point of the game. Don't really know what happened. Just kind of gave up.
So what they do, just like go back to L games, just add titles to it. Like they turn Red into Fire Red and Blue.
Well, Fire Red was a remake or remaster.
All they did for like I asked my coworkers. I was like, so what's the difference between Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon? Because this way, if a customer asks, I know. And they're like, it's literally just different Pokemon. And I'm like, isn't that how all of the games have been? And they're like, yeah, kind of. And I'm like, okay, so why do people keep buying this? And they're like, why do people keep buying Zelda? And I'm like,
okay,
fair enough. Okay.
Well, that's not really something you could compare, though. No, it would have been a better thing to say, why do people buy Halo or Call of Duty? Zelda, that's just a really bad thing to say.
I understand that Zelda changes, whereas Pokemon, normally it's roughly the same. Different Pokemon, but you still go to gyms to battle. You're still trying to collect as many as possible.
All they do is add little different things, like Game 2. Now you can have sex with your Pokemon. No, not literally, but Game 3, you can do this.
You can breed them now. Oh, look, cool.
What the hell?
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you guys hear Pokemon Go? You can now trade your Pokemon with your friends.
Yeah, they're kind of too late on the party for that.
Yeah.
Should have had it at the beginning point in the game where it was at its highest point, but oh well.
I do gotta say, it's curious you brought up GameStop, because now you suggested to me to tell stories involving me visiting the mall. I got a couple of stories lined up involving me visiting a GameStop.
But okay, other topic tonight was was job searching after school, because these two are recently graduated now. One's from high school, one from college, and they'd go on the job market pretty soon.
I mean, with me out of college, I'm able to get big boy stuff now, but truth is, a couple of years ago, I was having a freak out because I was trying to get simple part-time jobs at, like, freaking retail stores and all that crap, and I was upset because no one would hire me. But now, I kind of feel that money is not the problem, or getting a job's not the problem. I feel like if I just put out a whole bunch of applications, that's gonna get me somewhere in a couple of months. My main concern, however, is that every single listing I look in my field seems to want people who are veterans of the industry who don't need to learn anymore, whereas I do want to have a career where I can learn new things and, like, progress.
Right.
That's the idea. Like, I can't, like, I know the best way to start out, like, find good opportunities that can teach you stuff and make something of yourself, I suppose, is to talk to people, except I don't know who to talk to.
Right.
What about you?
I mean, I could always contact my old professors. They could probably help me out with that.
Do you go to college for anything? Is your job now anything with that in mind, or is it totally different?
What happened now?
I was asking her if she went to college or anything, and if her job is involved with that.
Oh, okay.
No, actually, my job is straight up basically retail. It has so far been the nicest retail I have ever worked. I am literally a jack of all trades. I danced for 17 years. I have worked at a haunted house for this upcoming October will be 6 years. I am in a movie. I'll be in a web series. I also went to culinary school, which is why I have sworn to myself that I will never get a job in the kitchen. Although difference is I will accept a job in a bakery. If I was really desperate and I needed a job, I would apply to Einstein's.
Yeah.
But I will never ever do a kitchen.
Because since I was bullied in high school, I went to a trade school to learn a trade. I learned printing, and then when I guess after I graduated, I did a few months in the printing career. But then I went there. I'm like, I don't like this at all.
Right. Yeah, that's the difference between like trade schools and college. Like in college, you learn about the major and you'll probably end up switching. Like they almost guarantee you will switch at least once in your college career. Like if you go to a university.
I never switched.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
No, like there's people that do that.
I know there's plenty of people that do that. I know very few people who maintain the exact same major.
Right.
It's just that I focused in on communication for video editing specifically, but then I thought to myself, there's other areas of communication I could go into. Like there's some journalism, there's some
right, yeah, there's
marketing, there's a lot of stuff involved with communication. And I really looked at the other majors, and truth is, I just don't think I would be good at anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, I want to go into veterinary. I have had this, like, set in my mind since I was probably 10 years old. Like, at least for 9 years now. And it's just because I am so good with animals. I absolutely love them. I never did horseback riding, but my 2 older sisters did. And I would help out around the barn all the time, even though I never actually rode the horses. And, like, I would always go pet sit. I would do dog walking around the neighborhood for basically everyone. And I didn't even care if I got paid or not. Luckily, for being a kid, it didn't matter. But, like, I just knew I was so good I was good with animals, so I was like, veterinary. Then my mom's also a doctor, and I'm a horror fanatic, so I'm like, well, I could go into being a surgeon. I know I wouldn't get queasy. It'd probably continuously interest me throughout my entire career.
It's like a vet surgeon.
Well, so that's kind of what I figured out was I don't like people. I work in retail, and I really don't like people. And simply because there's two reasons that I don't want to be a surgeon. One, if someone dies on your table, you have to go tell the family, like you personally, not a nurse, not anyone else, you have to go tell the family they're dead.
Yeah,
and
MarioTube.
Two is I don't want other people to go up onto WebMD and be like, it's cancer, it's cancer, it's cancer. Dude, here's 3 antibiotics, go home. Like that, because watching Grey's Anatomy, and I know no TV show is completely accurate with this, but I have been, everyone in my mom's hospital in the labor and delivery area knows my name, and always whenever I come in, they're like, oh, it's baby Tucker, because I'm the youngest of 4, so I'm the youngest in my family, and they have watched me grow up because I was delivered at that hospital. So even though I am now 19, they still call me Baby Tucker. And it's annoying because I don't know more than half of them, but it's fine because I get free food. But, like, I honestly, like, that's why I can't, like, you'd think it'd be more heart-wrenching to have to tell someone their pet died, but at the same way as I see it is you can get a new one. As bad as it is, you can get over it. But
that is the thing with pets.
Died, like, you tell someone that their 10-year-old kid died because some surgery malfunction, or it was a lot worse than we thought and we probably shouldn't have done surgery, or whatever the reason, that's going to weigh on those parents forever. There's no getting away from it.
Can't really tell them, get a new kid. You can get a new kid.
Yeah.
Simply, that is...
Well, so, with my mom, because she's an OBGYN, so I've had the abortion conversation, and I'm not going into super deep detail with it, but her standpoint is, if that person, instead of having an abortion, were to go into labor right then and there, would the baby survive? No? Then it's not a killing. Like, that's her standpoint. I'm not gonna say mine. I'm not gonna go into those conversations because politics makes me super ragey.
Politics is just trash.
Sure it makes, like, almost everyone super ragey. So, but that's her standpoint, and like to think of like an OBGYN to say that, because you would think that most OBGYNs or baby doctors or whatever would be like, no, all abortions are, like, all of them are murder, regardless of religious standpoint. It's kind of mind-blowing to hear a doctor legitimately say that, because she has to have surgeries like that where it's an ectopic pregnancy and they didn't know until really late in the pregnancy, and so it's either the baby lives or the mom lives, and my mom always picks the mom because you can have another baby.
Yeah.
It may not be your first kid that you grew in your womb, but you can have another one. You can't just suddenly pop out another 10-year-old, but you can have another baby. It's feasible. Unless you're like 50 years old, it's feasible.
Could have sworn there were like numerous cases where, like, at least one news story covered a mom who had cancer, but then she chose to like let the cancer spread just so she could have a baby, and that actually also.
My mom hates it when people do that too. She's always like,
been done
no,
in fiction
seriously.
before.
Huh?
It's also been done in fiction before.
Yeah, I hate. Not personal thing. I hate people that have cancer or whatever and go to a doctor. They just try to pray it away.
So what's funny with that is that my mom is, like, my parents are semi-religious. It's not like Catholic. It's actually it's an off-brand of Christian. It's called Episcopalian. Basically, the backstory on that is we were founded by Henry VIII. And we were founded because he wanted a divorce, and the Catholic Church was like, that's against our rules, and he was like, fuck your rules. And created the Anglican Church, which developed into the Episcopalian Church. And yes, this is the same Henry VIII that decided to murder his wife because she couldn't bear him a son. Yeah.
History lesson today.
Yep, basically. So.
And there could be worse reasons for someone to murder someone.
Well, I mean, that was the thing, was because the church gave him like a stipulation was you can't divorce your wife, and he's like,
yes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna behead her then, and they're like, we don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Plus, I think at the time, they might not care maybe if his wife's nephew hadn't been the emperor of the Roman Empire.
Basically, yeah. Well, I mean, like, to think about it like that, too, is the fact that it wasn't necessarily because the church ruled the king in the sense of he couldn't do anything against the church. But the king ruled over the church in the sense of the church can't say that what he's doing is wrong. So as long as it's not like in the Bible saying, hey, you can't kill your wife. And he was like, well, I'm going to behead her. They couldn't be like, well, that's against our rules. Because it's not. It's not officially written down. It's an unwritten rule.
Jeez.
Yeah, so there was that. So that's the religion that my parents follow. And with that, my parents almost never went to church. But I went to lovely Catholic school in Old Town, Nevada. And had to wear the whole uniform and everything. Forced to go to church for 12 years. That once I got into high school, I decided I was not Christian. I believe there's a higher power, and I believe there's a lower power, and that they collide. My only standpoint is that there's multiple of them.
See, I believe in the supernatural as well as, like, higher-up stuff, only because there's a lot of creepy coincidences that happen. There are a shitload of them.
I believe in the supernatural, too, because I have witnessed ghosts. Straight up.
Yeah, I was like a churchgoer for pretty much my whole life until about 10 years ago when my church just got all political and stuff and says, you have to vote this way. This is God's way. I'm like, no,
that's weird.
Screw you. Bye.
I mean, and funny thing is, the most recent creepy coincidence I found actually involves Incredibles 2. Because I saw this on IMDb. Both Incredibles movies happened to be released the year a cast member of the original Beauty and the Beast died.
Huh.
The first movie released in 2004, the year the voice of Lumiere died. And then this year, with Incredibles 2, the original voice of Cogsworth died.
That's funny, especially because they're like sidekicks in the movie.
Pretty much.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, conspiracy theories intrigue me, and sometimes I just watch them to laugh. But at my dance studio, there was this one girl that got so fucking hooked on them that she ended up, like, every single little thing that I said that was a happy coincidence or whatever, she, like, would blow up into this conspiracy theory. She is 4 years younger than me. And she would blow it up like that. And I'm like, dude, stop. And she's like, what, it could be? And I'm like, and it could also not be. See, you're just making yourself freak out because you're believing it so much that you're not letting yourself be happy that it's okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It's okay. She also I ended up blocking her on all social media because our dance studio closed, sadly. this last summer in 2017 because the dance director was going to move to Oklahoma to have his family be near his parents. And so he closed the dance studio down, which was where I was happily employed since I was 12 years old. And I ended up posting like a picture on Instagram, and I was like, oh, you know, I really do. I've missed dancing, but I don't miss the drama. I don't miss the fights. I don't miss the absolute craziness that happened around me every single day that I was there. And this girl goes, well, if you didn't cause it, then I wouldn't have been there. And I'm like, dude, really? And she's like, yeah, you caused like 95% of it. And I'm like, I hope you realize how much of this stuff I was trying to stay out of. And I just got sick and tired of listening to all of you bitch to me that I was like, okay, seriously, this is ending now. It's done. Stop it.
Wow.
Pretty sure when my sister danced, I'm pretty sure she probably had some of that drama. But the whole thing is, like, I used to dance, but to put it very lightly, based on all the home video evidence we have of the way I danced, let's just say my performance left a lot to be desired.
Well, so I actually, basically all of my solos are on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Because my mom was nice enough. I competed dance. So it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't
me
even
and my
like,
sister we didn't do competitive, we just did show.
Yeah, no, so, like, we had our recitals and everything, but I also competed 5 times a year. 4 of them were regionals and 1 was nationals. I competed on a cruise for nationals 3 different times, my final one being my senior year, when a bunch of drama blew up between me and who was supposed to be my best friend. She was best friends with me for, like, 5 or 6 years. And then she kind of flipped out, and because of one thing that the other girls assumed was about her, that I had said, because, you know, of course, every girl can only have one best friend, just so you know, that's how that works. You can only have one best friend. You're not allowed multiple, only the one. And I was giving them advice on something, and I said, you know, how my best friend did this was bad, and they're like, oh my god, and just started like saying it was her, and I'm like, guys, seriously? And they're like, see, that proves it. And I'm like, that does nothing, I'm just getting annoyed at you guys. And so they went and told her that I said all this crap about her, and she ended up like flipping out on me. And it was the first night on the cruise, this week-long cruise that we were stuck on a boat together. She decided to flip out on me on the first night, and was like staring daggers at me across the table. And I went over to her and I'm like, seriously, if you want to talk this out, we can talk this out, but otherwise keep your eyes on your food. And one of the moms one of the dance moms that was a very no drama mom, which is very, very nice because most of them aren't. My mom is luckily a no drama mom unless she's in the dressing room. Then it's all the drama everywhere. And it's not even caused by her. It's just she ends up being in the way, and it just causes yelling, and it's bad time for everyone. And this mom took us to her room on the ship and was like, seriously, you guys need to talk it out. And this girl was like, well, I'm so depressed, you know, when I got here, I wanted to kill myself, you know, that was the first thing I was planning on doing once I got on the ship. And this mom, like, fully blunt, was like, okay, well, how are you gonna do? Are you gonna jump off? Because that would probably only break your neck. You wouldn't drown. They'd be able to fish you out before you drowned. Or were you gonna slit your wrists? Well, someone would probably find you in your state cabin before that. And she's like, well, I was gonna take pills. And she's like, oh, that takes even more time than slitting your wrists does. Yeah, no, they'd definitely find you in your cabin before you killed yourself. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my god. Like, I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I've had depression. I've had suicidal thoughts, but damn, like, everything she was saying to me, I was just like, or to us, I was just like, oh, wow, okay, I never thought anything through that far. That makes a lot more sense. And, but this girl, like, all dancers, I am like the rare exception to this, because it does still happen. All dancers have a very low self-esteem about themselves, because there will always be someone that's more fit or skinnier or more muscular or eats healthier or whatever the hell they want to decide that day. And so very often there'd be girls that are like, oh my god, and they're sitting on the floor. So just add that image to your head really fast. They'd like bend down and grab their stomach and be like, look, and count the amount of skin that rolled over. And they'd be like, I have 6 rolls, oh my god. And I'm like, guys, if you didn't have those rolls, you stand up, you die. And they're like, no, we don't. And I'm like, yeah, that's how that works. Sorry, you're gonna have at least 2. Okay? And they're like, well, I don't have 2 right now. And I'm like, at least is like 5-year-old status skinny. Like, no muscles whatsoever. That is 5-year-old status. And they're like, well, how many do you have? And I'm like, I'm not fucking doing this. Sorry. And I'd walk away, and then I'd see them standing in the mirror, pushing out their stomach as far as they can, and being like, I look pregnant. And I'm like, seriously? And they're like, and of course they all know my mom's an OBGYN, so they turn to me, and they're like, how pregnant do I look? And I'm like, you don't? And they're like, well, how would you know? And I'm like, you asked my opinion.
What the
really?
fuck? It sounds like they're just instigating shit for no reason.
Yeah, exactly, right? And, basically, like, then they'd get on the whole, I weigh this much. Since I was probably 14, I have weighed 130 pounds. I have not changed. I've maybe changed 1 or 2 pounds depending on the day. But that is it. Like, I've weighed 130 pounds to the point of, like, if I go into the DMV, I don't have to weigh myself before. If I go into the doctor's office, they don't have to weigh me because I'm like, I'm 130 pounds. They double check because it's the doctor's office. And then they're like, oh, yeah. What? And I'm like, yeah, 130 pounds. But, like, these girls, they'd be like, oh my god, I'm 115 pounds. And I'm like, yeah, and you know what? And they're like, what? And I'm like, that's still underweight. And they're like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, you're taller than me, and currently I'm just about underweight. For how often I dance, yeah. And they're like, well, you're older than me. And I'm like, that doesn't make a difference. And they're like, you're more muscular than me. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I got my weight. It's not fat, it's muscle. And this
I heard that muscles weigh more than fat does.
They do. And so this one girl went on like a crazy diet exercise plan, like got a nutritionalist involved in everything because she could not see a good thing in herself. This is the same girl that told me that I was the reason that all the drama happened. And she got like she lost 10 pounds in like 2 weeks. So not a super unhealthy amount. That's okay. And then maybe I don't even know. Shit. Maybe a week later, she weighed herself again, and she had gained like 3 pounds. And she's like, what? I'm still eating everything that I'm supposed to. I'm still exercising. And I'm like, it's because you're exercising. And she's like, that doesn't make you gain weight. And I'm like, no, it makes you gain muscle, which makes you heavier. And she's like, but that's not how that's supposed to happen. And I'm like, dude, really? Talk to your nutritionalist about it. They'll say the same thing. If you want to maintain the same weight you're at, you have to work on endurance, not strength. And she's like, what's the difference? And I'm like, well, endurance is, when you can breathe through more things than you think. So with a 2-pound weight, you can do 20 reps before being like, okay, I need a break. Whereas strength is like, okay, I'm gonna do five reps with a 20-pound weight to gain muscle.
Honestly, if you have to ask someone what the difference is between endurance and strength training, man, you are just like on a different level entirely. Like, you need to be educated.
Okay, sorry, I'm gonna add this little tidbit because Thank you so much for this, because this is great. This girl had a 4.0 GPA in high school freshman year, got straight A's.
Mm-hmm.
In this Instagram fight that she decided to have with me about me causing all the drama and it's my fault and whatever, there was advice that I gave to them because I was the oldest and they were 15-year-olds in high school. And if you guys know of Ralston Valley, then you probably know about how there was the burn book there that made national news, and there's this game that all the seniors like to play, and they call it How Many Freshmen. And their literal goal as a senior in high school is to bang and take the V cards of as many freshmen as possible. And so I was giving these girls advice on, hey, I don't care how you do it. Do whatever you want to do. You want to make it spontaneous, go for it. You want to wait, go for it. You want to wait till marriage? All you. Do whatever you're going to do. I'm just going to tell you what I did, what my best friend did, which is how they were like, oh, it was her, it was her, it was her. Even though I gave no names or anything to it. And I was giving them advice and what to do and what not to do. And the only thing I said what not to do was fall for someone when they don't fall for you. If you want to make it completely anonymous, make it completely anonymous. But don't puppy dog them. That was basically my one rule to them was don't puppy dog.
We had something similar at our school. It wasn't sex, it was being freshmen up or something, or pranking them or doing something to them. It wasn't... I didn't participate in it.
The hazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
RV actually still did that with their cheerleaders and POMS teams, and they weren't supposed to. It's been outlawed at colleges now.
Good.
So having it happen at high schools, definitely a no-no.
Fun fact, I had to write about it as essays in my high school at senior year. So
right, yeah.
I'm on point with it.
So fraternities and sororities can't do that anymore in colleges?
Yeah, so what's funny is my dad was part of a fraternity, and at CU Boulder actually, and this last year he actually had to go down because he's an alum, so he still goes and hangs out with his fraternity brothers. Sorry, my mom was in a sorority too, and my sister is too, so I get words mixed up all the time. But so he still hangs out with the fraternity brothers, and more than half of them don't live in Colorado anymore. So my brother goes to CU Boulder. So my dad took this as an opportunity to go see my brother and to go yell at these guys because they were caught hazing. And the principal was like, and you're no longer allowed on campus. Fraternity closed. The students themselves weren't expelled, but the fraternity no longer existed. So all of them had to move out of the house. And so my dad had to go and yell at them and be like, guys, really? This is not what we do. This is not what this name stands for. You guys need to buck up and learn how to be genuine people. And I had called him, and I was like, Dad, where are you? Because I didn't know he was down in Boulder or anything. I was the only one home, and I come home at 9, and my dad's getting ready for bed. I came home at 10, and no one was there. So I was like, what the hell? So I called my dad, and I'm like, where are you? And he's kicking ass and taking names. And I'm like, one, never say that again. And he's like, why? And I'm like, you're over 50. I love you, but no. So he had to go and yell at them for hazing. And but this girl, going back to my original thought process, this girl went into this whole thing about how, how she's smarter than me, because I get D's and C's in high school. And to be honest, my first year of being a senior, I did not graduate. I screwed up basically my entire junior year. I screwed up.
I barely graduated high school. I just
Well, so I'm very smart. I'm very math and science oriented, which is why I also know that becoming a vet will work very well for me. So I know how smart I am, and that does not work into my advantage because I also know that doing homework is kind of pointless.
Yeah, I know. I was very smart too. The homework issue. I got every test. I got hundreds on tests. Just doing the homework in was an issue for me a lot of the time.
The other thing was that I would have teachers that would be like I would start to do the homework in class, and they're like, "No, you need to do that at home." And I'm like, "I dance for 4 hours after this, and then I have to get up at like 6:30 tomorrow morning to come to school. Really?" I would get out at 3:10, and my dance classes would start at 4:30, and I would have to go home, eat, get dressed for dance, go to dance, be at dance for 4 hours, sometimes 6 if I had a private after dance. I never home and fall asleep.
I never understood that. Why can't we do homework? I never understood that. Why is it illegal to do homework in class? Would you rather us be like gossiping or something?
Right? No, and I guess it was. I mean, I can understand it in the sense of like we don't want kids to share answers and whatever, but that also helps with teamwork, which a lot of jobs need. Like a lot of jobs hate it when you're independent. So like asking your parents for help. My parents were shitty helpers, honestly. Like my dad, and it's not even because of the way that they were taught. My dad just looks at my homework and he goes to a problem like for math. I go to him for math because he's an accountant, and I go to my mom for science because she's a doctor. It makes sense. And so I would go to my dad and he'd be like, "Okay, so what's this?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Okay, well, how do you do it?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Well, you should know." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." So there's that.
See,
so I just stopped asking my parents for help because they were no help.
See, that whole situation is the reason why I absolutely hate with a passion the "oh, you do homework at home because it's called homework" argument. That's total fucking bullshit. Like, oh, you want me to do work? Well, what if I don't know how to do it? What, I gotta wait till the next day? If I'm doing homework in your class and you don't like it, that's retarded.
Well, no, so I had a really awesome math teacher, and he was my Algebra 2 teacher. And I excelled so much in his class that he curved everything off of me. I would get 150% on quizzes because everyone else would end up getting a 60% if he marked mine at 100.
Is the 150 a figure of speech, or is that like actually what was going on?
Legitimately, because of the fact that I would get all the answers correct, but because everyone else in my class was, to be honest, I was in normal math, which is closer to remedial math, and so all of the people in my class were kind of slackers, and I'm a huge math nerd that's really good at algebra. So, like, I would get everything correct because I would be able to do my classwork and homework all in the same classroom with help from him if I need it. And I always knew that if I asked him for help, he would give it to me. And so I would always, like, even on, like, super simple questions like that, I even thought I had an inkling wrong, I'll go to him and be like, "Hey, is this how you do it?" He'd like double check my work really fast. And that was the only time I ever had to show my work, was if I thought that I was going to have an issue with it. Otherwise, he let me do it in my head and didn't have an issue with it. Like he would say on tests and quizzes, like, try to show as much work as you can. That way, if you do get the answer wrong, you still get partial points for the work you did. But otherwise, like, everyone else in the class would get like 60%. I didn't have to take a final either semester in that class because I was so high. And I still ended the year with 96%.
Speaking of math, I brought this up on the podcast before, but do you ever have to suffer through the Common Core math thing they're doing now?
Thank God. Thank God, no, that they started teaching that the year after.
Oh, man, you freaking dodged a bullet.
I know, I'm so fucking happy about it.
Dude, if they introduced Common Core math while I was still in school, I would just refuse to do it, straight up.
Which is funny, because, like, it's funny to be like, oh, like, listening to parents be like, "Oh, you know, I never learned how to do it this way, like, that's not how I was taught." And now, like, all of us are thinking, "Oh, crap." Now we understand.
Mario.
Huh.
Let's just say you're gonna love a joke in Incredibles 2.
Okay.
Awesome.
Is that deal with Common Core math or something?
Oh, wait. Oh, I think I know. It's already in the trailer. I already saw it.
It's in the trailer, yeah. He's like, it's math. Like, why do they have to change it up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
See,
yeah, let's just say that when I was in the theater, my friend sitting next to me was saying, oh, I see what they did there, Common Core.
See, I don't think it's necessarily a big deal if they change it, like, oh, multiplication, you do it this way. Oh, now you gotta do it the I think it was lattice multiplication way. It's like, that way, I don't really see that as a big deal. It's just like a different way of doing it, but it's not radically different, unlike Common Core, where it makes everything impossible.
Right. Well, and basically, like, when and if I have kids, basically what I'm going to tell them is I'm going to be like, okay, I can help you as much as I can, but you guys are learning completely differently than me, and if you have questions, write them on your homework so you remember them the next morning, so that before your class starts, you can ask your teacher how to do them.
If I had kids, I don't think I would want to be subjected.
Otherwise, it's considered late. God damn, I hated that part of high school, is if you don't get it in by the start of the period, it's considered late instead of by the end.
Yeah. For me, a lot of the time, it didn't really matter when it came to math, because the way I was having my situation was, well, basically, I was put in an easier math class because of complications, not the fact that I couldn't do harder math, just the fact that there was just some weird shit going on at the time. And my teacher just was like, okay, so here's your homework. I give you time, like 15 minutes or so, to do the homework. Actually, I don't think it's 15 specifically, but anyways, she gives us time, and pretty much everyone does it so quick that we don't even take it home. In fact, we could just do it at the beginning of the period too, and we could still be fine. So that was cool for me. And not only that, but even if I did have a complication because of my IEP that I have, I got extra time when needed, so not like I needed that in my math class, but still, it was nice.
My last year of being in a physical high school, because I switched to online school afterwards, like halfway through my first senior year, I had talked to, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's basically like where if you have, whether it's like a mental issue, like, oh hey, I'm bipolar, I'm gonna need a break, otherwise I will flip out on someone, or I have depression and there's days that I will not physically be able to do a quiz or something. My brain keeps on coming up with W4, and that is so not it, because that's for work. But it's I can't for the life of me remember what it is. It has a number and it has a letter in it. That's all I got.
It's certainly not W4.
No, it's definitely not W4.
AC 130 inbound.
But so I went to my counselor about that, and she's like, okay, well, if you really think that you want this, then, you know, I'll pitch you to it's the school's committee that decides it too. And that kind of, like, that bothers me. Like, I feel like it should be the counselor itself, the person that's been talking to you through all of your crap, that is like, hey, you need this? Okay, cool. I'll make it happen. Not like, oh, I'll throw your name to a committee and they'll decide if you deserve it. Okay, cool, thank you. Bye. Because, like, she told me that. She's like, you can do that, like, but what do you need? Like, what special allowances do you need? And I'm like, honestly, I just need more time with homework. Like, I have such a busy schedule. And she's like, well, talk to your teachers first. I'm sure they'll make exceptions. And I talked to a few of them, and they were like, well, you know, if you absolutely need it, you can let me know, but otherwise I want you to turn it in on time. And if you don't let me know before you turn it in, or like before the end of the class period, then yeah, no, it's still counted as late. And I'm like, well, what if I'm not there? Like, what if, And they're like, well, as long as you get excused by your parents. And I'm like, I'm 18 now. And they're like, it doesn't matter. Your parents should still be the ones to excuse you. And I'm like, they don't know when I'm sick anymore. They leave before I go to school. And they're like, well, it doesn't matter. Your parents still have to call in. And I'm like, I feel like once you're 18, you should be able to do it yourself.
Yeah, that's... Your parents have to do it even though you're not a minor. Okay, so what? Like,
well,
fucking
right?
really?
Well, I had a friend who was 16, and he didn't even live with his parents. He lived in an apartment.
Oh,
and he
wow.
was still going to high school.
Wow, that's like, pretty impressive.
Right? Well, it was probably because he was in a foster family, because when you're fostered, you're allowed to leave at 16.
His apartment could be like a closet as well.
I was in foster care, adopted, so.
Right. I just know that because of my ex-best friend, her cousins was in foster, so she knew all the rules from that. And she actually ended up in foster for a while because her mom ended up going to jail. Oh. And her grandparents didn't want to take care of her.
Same with, my birth mom got thrown in juvie. That's all I got in the system.
My friend, just my friend right now, he wants to stay here, but his parents are trying to make him move. And when he asked, like, hey, I want to stay here with my grandmother, she was like, why would you want to stay here? It's not like you're leaving behind many friends anyways. And I'm just like,
wow.
Mate. Yeah, his mom is one of the worst human beings ever.
Oh, yeah, that I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. When the grandma says something like that, I would not doubt that the mom's close behind. I mean, like, my teenage angst is now long gone, now that I don't currently live in the same house with my parents. My teenage angst is, like, so far gone. But, like, do you think of the fact that, like, so many kids at 16 are like, I hate you, I don't want you in my life, you suck, you're an awful person, and whatever. Yeah, thanks, Deontay. Like, listening to them do that now, I'm like, oh, shush, honey, shut up. Pay your bills and then realize, oh, wait, they were actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
Like, my dad is a narcissistic asshole. He's the reason I know I'm bipolar, even though I haven't been officially diagnosed, is because both him and my mother have bipolarism, and so does my oldest sister. So it's almost a guarantee that I have it. And also with my mood swings, I would not doubt it.
Genetics are a bitch sometimes.
Yeah. And,
eyes.
So...
My eyes suck.
Like, so... all my parents, like, basically all my family has it. There's no doubt on that one. And, so while I was living in the house, my dad's also, like, a neat freak. My boyfriend likes to be clean, but he's not a neat freak, so I get along better with him. And, so my dad would, like, flip out if I left anything, like, anywhere. And so there was, like, a few nights that I would leave my backpack near the coffee table, which is, like, right inside the garage, so right where I would come in, and I'd be sitting there watching TV, and he'd be like, move that. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because it's in the way. And I'm like, in the way of what? And he's like, it doesn't look good. And I'm like, really?
Oh.
I'm like, I'm trying to relax, and he's like, I just got home from work, and I'm like, then go relax.
Oh. I have a similar story. Like I am not a neat freak by any or clean. I am kind of dirty-ish a little bit, but when I moved in with my roommate a few years ago, I was like, all of a sudden I became the clean one. There, I'm like, oh my god, this is even more dirtier than I can handle. So I became the clean person, clean freak-ish person, you know.
Right.
I don't care how dirty something is. And what's funny is that my friend, who I hung out with a while back, he had this box filled with games, like, stacked up, and he had them set in exact order. I'm just like, hey, is it alright if I look through these? And then he's just like, no, don't touch.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's also like partial OCD there.
Yeah, he has OCD.
Yeah.
So.
One of the people that I worked with at GameStop, he told me that I don't know if she's his ex or if they're together or whatever. He works at my bank now. I find it funny. But like his girlfriend at the time was so OCD to the point of if you dropped anything on the floor, you were not allowed to pick it up. Like when she was there, you would have to wait until she was gone to pick it up.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so
wait, I don't understand. What does she mean by that?
Like, so if you were to drop like a sock on the floor, like carrying a pile of clothes and a sock dropped on the floor, you wouldn't be allowed to pick it up if she saw you do it.
But why?
Because she was. I don't like. He explained it to me as she was OCD, and I mean I can understand about it because like obsessive compulsive type thing of, it's dropped, it's gone, like it's out of my mind, it no longer exists.
It's mine now.
Well, like kind of like basically like if it touches the floor, it's dead to me.
Oh.
So it's
well, better not drop any money then.
Basically, and he told me about that. Like he ended up dropping a piece of food on the floor, and he went to go pick it up to throw it away, and she flipped out.
I'm throwing it away. I'm not eating it.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
so
to be fair, the amount of people that still end up like 5-second rule.
Oh no.
It's like, so I leave it on the floor forever then? A whole pile of stuff on the floor. Never pick it up. Socks, shirts,
so he would wait until she was like asleep or out of the room, and then he'd go and pick everything up like as quickly as possible. And then when she'd come in, she'd be fine. Like it's not like she's like, there was stuff on the floor. Like what the fuck? Like she was. It never happened.
You know what would suck? If he was a clean freak and she had that, and he couldn't clean until after she fell asleep, and the entire day he's just like.
Right.
Staring at the floor.
A guy named Sparrow that's in chat says, "Oops, I dropped a stick of lit dynamite on the floor. Guess I can't put it out until she leaves. Oh wait, there she goes, running very fast in the opposite direction."
There she goes to eat her pellet.
Oh my god, inside joke. But yeah, that sounds something like you have to be serious on getting used to.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, like, apparently that was one of the reasons that they broke up, supposedly, was because he would pick up the crap that she dropped on the floor and she didn't want him to, and now I don't know if they're together or not, so.
He tripped and then she forgot about him. Bad joke, I'm sorry.
Oh my. Jesus.
Well, no, so there was a whole lot of drama with that, because so he worked with me at GameStop, and then they broke up, and he got really depressed because they had an apartment together, so he still saw her every day. Because their lease was like up in a month, and he didn't have anywhere to like go stay, so he was like, screw it, I'm just gonna stay here. And she would bring guys home.
Was it a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment?
I have no idea.
Because it was 1-bedroom, that could get a little awkward.
I think it was probably a 2-bedroom because I think that they had a roommate. Like both of them had a roommate, and then the roommate moved out. So I think it was staying in the other room. But yeah, no, she would bring home guys, or supposedly she would bring home guys, and I was like, wow, that's awkward. And then
also kind of jerkish.
Yeah, right.
Come on.
Well, the other thing is like I was basically like his closest friend, so I'm pretty sure half of what he was telling me was to gain my sympathy. And my best friend was single at the time, and she was annoyed with being single, so I was like, here's a guy that you'll probably like, and I kind of like threw her at him, and I had like explained her personality and everything to him, And he was like, I'm probably not going to be interested in her. And then they started talking, and he was like, actually, yeah, I'd be okay with this. And then and then what ended up happening was he was going to move out of that apartment, and he was going to find a place, and whether it was he moved in with his best friend or whatever else happened. And his best friend also worked at my store, funnily enough. And
the GameStop hub.
Basically. And they ended up, what ended up happening was he stopped talking to my best friend. Like, completely, no warning, just stopped hanging out with her, stopped talking with her, everything. And, no one could get a response to her, or to him at all. Like, I couldn't even get a response to him, or from him, like, through Facebook or anything. It was non-existent. And, then eventually they were like, okay, screw it. And Sydney, who's my best friend, had ended up spending quite a bit of time and talking with his best friend, trying to figure out what the hell was going on with him. So they started to have feelings for each other. Basically, she homie hopped. But I'm glad she did, because she's so much happier with his best friend than she was with him. And now he works at my bank, which I found out the last time I went there, because he was like a teller there, and I was like, oh, hey, hi, this is awkward, because I know you got fired. And I wasn't even working there when you got fired, so.
I feel bad for that guy.
I feel bad for him, but like, she didn't move on to his best friend until she had found out that he was moving. He was moving into his parents' house, and his ex was coming with him.
Oh.
But they were still exes, though.
Wait, what?
Yeah. No, like, basically, they ended up losing the lease because they didn't renew it in enough time. So basically the apartment was like, okay, you're done now, and like, you get out. And so he went in and moved into his parents, and she didn't have a place to stay. And he explained it to me as, I'm being a nice person and letting her stay with us until she can find a place. And I was like, no, dude, you don't do that to your ex. It doesn't matter how good of terms you do, like, you're on. When you're dating someone else, you do not allow your ex to move in with you. Anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's your parents' house or somewhere else. So.
I can see him now, all his exes at his parents' house.
Right?
Dude, that's like a sitcom situation you got there.
Basically, yeah. So she ended up starting to date his best friend. I'm pretty sure they're no longer friends. And yeah, that's where it ended with that, was this guy was such a dumbass.
So on a different more happy, not to say happy topic, so you play a lot of horror games on your streams?
Mostly, yeah. Mostly I stream Dead by Daylight. And that's actually because I just kind of got addicted to it, and all my other games don't really work with streaming. I tried to do Left 4 Dead 2 because I was like, hey, I'll just switch games really fast, do another game that I already know how to play. And then when I got it open and like running, it was having so many issues. I basically couldn't like pick up a pistol, so I was having issues with that, and so I was like, okay, and not doing this, I guess. So I haven't played Left 4 Dead 2 since. but I also have Osiris New Dawn, which was suggested to me by a guest at Dave & Buster's, actually. I was talking with them, and I told them I was a streamer, and they're like, oh yeah, what games do you play? And I told them, and they're like, oh, well, you should check this one out. It's like in early access, but sounds cool. I was like, okay, and they're like, actually, we've played it before, so it is pretty cool.
Yeah, I never been that much into horror games, and then I never that was into horror movies personally, but.
Right? No, I love I love horror movies because the first movie that I can remember watching is It, the original.
Oh yeah, I saw that when I was little. I think that's why I don't like horror.
Funny story. In the original It, I used to watch it too. Well, my mom's a huge Stephen King fan,
Right.
and when the original It came up, ever since I was like 4 or so, I would run out of the room when it would show Pennywise do his teeth when he grabbed Georgie.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I would run out of the room, then come back in for all the Pennywise scenes. And then once I got to like age 8, I was like, wait, why am I doing this? It's just a movie. And that's when it dawned on me. Wait a second, this movie is actually hilarious. So.
Yeah, for a while I was also afraid of going near sewers too. After I saw that movie, I avoided the sewer areas.
When I would be like in my bathtub, I would just look at the drain and be like, God no, spooked.
But I can nowadays I can handle like horror movies now, but like you mentioned this blood and stuff, I'm still not that good at slasher flicks.
Right.
I actually prefer slasher flicks because. Oh, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say that I actually prefer slasher flicks because, number one, they're surprisingly rare nowadays because it seems like the norm of most horror movies nowadays are to have like a generic ghost figure of some kind.
It's either supernatural or monster flick. It's never like slasher.
Movies are also not that common neither, but it's mostly like stupid ghosts. And like slasher movies, like, in fact, that's why a lot of people are praying to God the new Halloween is good, because that could bring slasher movies a bit more back into the spotlight.
Right. The only issue I have with I mean, Halloween's great. Halloween's a great movie, and they have not overdone that by any means. It's like the Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees, which made slasher films die out, and it's because they made so many on them. Like,
yeah.
Freddy and Jason have like 13 films apiece.
And then they retcon all of them?
No, it's Halloween that had a lot of its movies retconned. Like, Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street surprisingly stayed consistent.
Yeah. But, it's just, like, all of the Saw movies, like, yeah, it is a basic theme. Like, there's John Kramer. Oh, look, he's Jigsaw. Oh, cool, there's traps. But it was never the same to the point of where you'd go to the movie and be like, oh, yep, that person's gonna die. It was legitimately a surprise on if someone died or if someone survived every single time. Or on who died. And it was a psychological slasher film, which I don't think they could have pulled off any better than they did the last one.
You mean Jigsaw? Or the 3D? Oh, you mean the new one?
Yeah, the new one. The Jigsaw Legacy.
Yeah,
like
Saw
that.
Legacy, and they renamed Jigsaw. I mean, they could have kept it as Saw Legacy.
They honestly should have, and I think the only reason they didn't was because everyone was thinking that it was Gordon. That it was Dr. Griffin.
I mean, it was kind of unfortunate that we didn't get cameos of anyone else from the earlier movies that survived that.
Well, and I think the reason they did that was because of the fact that, one, it was a completely new director that was heading it, and the executive producer was the original director. And so he was basically like, yeah, I don't want this to be like the first one. And that's what they're doing that with Purge too. How they did with Saw Legacy, like, so what what they did with Saw Legacy is that they made the first Jigsaw the last Jigsaw. Because of course it was like the first set of traps.
An origin story.
Yes. Thank you. And then and that's what they're doing with Purge, is that this will probably be the last Purge movie, and so they're making it the first Purge. And the way they did Jigsaw though made it actually collide correctly into the timeline with Jigsaw though. So it's not like, oh hey, so we're gonna go backwards completely, even though it's been 10 years since you last saw one of these movies, and we're gonna go to before the first one, and yeah, like it was like, oh hey, so we're gonna combine the first one and a new one together, which was really dope.
You know what? On that subject, how do you think the Scream series handled the fourth movie after it was released a long time after the original trilogy?
I don't watch Scream.
You don't watch Scream?
No, I tried to watch the first movie and I was laughing way too hard.
And the funny thing is they marketed the first one as a comedy.
They did, and I love Drew Barrymore, but like, I'm thinking of her in like Charlie's Angels and how they have like all the different disguises and everything, and like just her being like, hello? It's too funny to me.
I've never
I
watched
need something
Charlie's
that like
Angels
would
or something
legitimately
like
give me nightmares for me to really enjoy as a horror movie. And I won't touch ghost movies because I've experienced real ghosts and that shit's freaky.
Speaking of ghost movies, Sparrow.
Ghost movies because they're stupid.
Speaking of ghost movies, Sparrow in chat says, one thing that bugs me with ghosts in movies is why those that were good people in life suddenly turn into homicidal maniacs as a spirit.
So, I mean, okay, so, like, the Supernatural TV show kind of touches on that in the sense of you can be, like, a legitimately good person in life, and then you get stuck in limbo, and because of the fact that you can't do anything, it just makes you go crazy. And...
Carry on my wayward.
Like, can't move on to the afterlife.
Yeah, exactly. So, it makes a lot more sense when you think of it like that. But if you think of it like, oh, I'm not done with I still have my burrito.
I know this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think The Shining is probably the best ghost film. Ghost horror
but
movie.
the question is, are you talking about the movie or the miniseries?
Just the Stanley Kubrick film.
So the movie.
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah, like,
that movie Stephen King hated beyond.
Yeah,
hating.
he
Like
did.
he boycott his own movie.
He did.
But he ended up helping direct the miniseries, and it follows the book so well. It's like a 3-episode miniseries.
Hey, speaking of book following, the TV series or the movie follow it book more closely?
Neither.
Wait, there's a TV series?
Well, I'm not TV series, but the TV movie, I meant.
The miniseries, he means the original miniseries versus the new movie. I don't think either of them follow the book.
More.
No, the movie is set in the
80s. Had to cut a lot out because it had to get a family-friendly rating.
Yeah, but the new one also is one. It's set in the 80s instead of the 60s. It doesn't show a lot of the transformations. Like in the new one, Pennywise just kind of transforms into a zombie or like a roasted guy. When in the miniseries and in the book, he would transform into like a werewolf or a freaking the freaking lake guy.
Spider.
What's the guy called where he comes out?
I mean, the
lake?
movie's a lot closer to the graphic content that was in the book.
Yeah, it's a lot more dark, but
what makes me really sad about this new movie is like This movie traumatized me. I was 3 years old when I watched it, and my parents didn't know I was watching it, like, right behind them.
I mean the 90s version, the miniseries, right?
Yeah, probably. I truthfully, I don't really remember. I honestly don't know if it was the miniseries and it was just they were watching it all at once or whatever, but I watched it all of it at once, and I ended up, like, I ended up getting chlorophobia from it. And
yeah.
My parents finished watching it and they turned around and they saw me and they're like, "Oh shit."
Oh.
Well, my
There's their
sister's
3-year-old
apparently
little
afraid of
daughter
clowns.
sitting behind them watching TV.
Wait, what?
Apparently my sister was afraid of clowns. When my mom found I went to go see the new movie of it, she was like having a big freak out. You know your sister's afraid of clowns?
That's why I didn't invite her.
Well,
Yeah,
so
I went by myself.
So me and my boyfriend, we went and saw the new movie because I was like, hell yeah, why not? Go get scared. Like, I have you to hold my hand. I'm okay with this. And like, the trailers gave everything away. Like, it wasn't like they added all the jump scares into the trailers. So I was like, oh, here's a jump scare. Oh, here's a jump scare. Oh, here's a jump scare. Like, there was only one point, and I think it was with all of the freaking zombie kids, like, that when they went into the sewer and they found the girl's shoe and they went in there and there was like 3 kids that were right there. And that was the only time. And he was in the water and the kid runs away and trips and he jumps out and it's like goes super crazy fast. That was the only time that I got jump scared in that entire movie, and that movie jump scared me so many times.
I don't think jump scares equate to actual scariness, though. In my opinion,
I agree with that too. I would say that if you get quote unquote scared by jump scares, it wasn't really a scare, more of a shock. But
well, yeah, but you have to have something to jump to get that shock in, to get the adrenaline pumping, because otherwise it's the same thing with haunted houses. Like, you will always find at least one jump scare in a haunted house, but with that you will think every other person that you come across is going to be a jump scare. So if you find someone standing in the middle of a corn and you're like, oh, this must be a mannequin, and you come up and they turn around right as you're right behind them, you will get freaked the fuck out.
Oh, here's a recommendation.
So I presume you like it when horror movies are actually scary, well, for pretty obvious reasons.
I learned this lesson real fast. And this lesson in haunted houses: never go behind some terrified teenagers or something, girls, because then they're slow and they trigger everything before you even get there.
Oh yeah, no. If you want to be scared, you don't stand behind the people that are the most scared, because we will go after all of them. Yeah, because we're like, oh hey, they're easy targets. Why not?
I think haunted houses are unmemorable, in my opinion, because of the fact of the jump scares.
Here's the thing, because I do not scare easily, and I do not laugh easily. At least in the case of laughing, not anymore. Because I've seen it all at this point. I don't know. I guess when I was a kid, I always found slasher movies to be scarier because those are the kinds of scenarios that could actually happen. Like, to bring back the Scream series briefly, like, I watched Scream at probably a bit more of a young age than I should have, and because of my cousin, and I don't know, there was a very brief period when I thought that Ghostface was going to break into the house at one point, but I don't know. Then later on, I saw Halloween. I never actually fully watched a Halloween movie, but then, actually, come to think of it, the only horror series I ended up watching fully at a relatively young age was probably the Final Destination movies.
Those are good movies.
Yeah, they are.
As I was going on the whole jump scare versus actual scariness, I would say that you can still have that adrenaline and that stuff without a jump scare.
Well, true,
Like,
you can have like the suspense and stuff, but even with that, like with it, they didn't allow the suspense to build enough. Like they would start to
disagree.
build it and then it would go away because
I also don't think scary movies need that adrenaline, because like it could still be actually scary without being heart pounding, like racing. Like the perfect example is in the new It, actually, in the beginning with Pennywise in the sewer and Georgie. Like if you've seen the original miniseries, you know what's gonna happen, and um and there's no jump scare in that scene, and it really is just shocking what happens. But the whole time, Pennywise is like legitimately acting like a clown. Like he's not like acting like, I don't know, a monster, or like, I don't know, some mobster like in the original. But like he's like generally being creepy because like a kid could actually fall for that. Like fall for that trick of just Pennywise in the sewer like luring in a kid.
right, which
And
is like
that's creepy. Like
well,
just to think about that and watch it play out.
In the very beginning, like it really is. Like they did the very beginning very well. Basically, everyone, regardless of if you've seen the miniseries or not, you basically know what's going on because either you have seen memes about it or you got curious when you watched the trailer, and so you watched the old miniseries. But with that, it was like the leper scared me because that was just, it was gross. Like for me, that's just something that's like, ugh. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like a, oh my god, I'm fearing for my life type moment. But like, and I never got that with Saw, and yet I still loved Saw because it's psychological. I can learn something from it and be like, oh hey, so he did this for this reason, that's pretty cool. And it's like, with it, I mean, yeah, the books don't go super into detail on what he is or how he comes to be or whatever. And I like the fact that the kids actually ended up finding out research on this. But I didn't like the fact that it didn't elaborate just a little bit more to be like, hey, like what would happen if this were to happen, or to even have like flashbacks of going back in time to when he supposedly was at the fire.
I think the mystery is like a layer of fear, because a lot of people argue, and I kind of learned this from Schnick, that people don't like the sequels of Halloween because they explain why Michael Myers is a serial killer murderer. Well, in the first movie, it's never explained, and that gives Michael Myers a more mysterious, creepy, like, more tone to it.
And with the new movie, they're actually dropping the canon of all the movies except the first one. They even made a jab at how, oh, Laurie's not his sister. That was just a myth.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyways, I'm pretty sure it is a demon. In the original miniseries, or in the book. I think
in the book he's an alien, and in the miniseries,
either an alien or a demon. That's what I found. I'm leaning more towards demon because they go through a tiny little door with an altar in the miniseries. So
true.
I know it has nothing to do with the horror stuff, but I realized it before. It's weird. I knew about talking about the internet. That do you even know about that? I mean, not in the movie, but about that group X sex thing in the book.
Oh yeah.
I'm like what are you talking about? The thing, like what thing? Looked up, like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But hey, speaking of horror, is Jaws considered a horror movie or what?
Yeah, kind of.
Jaws is considered a horror movie because of the time that it was made and the amount of gore in it. But technically, yeah, I know, right? But technically now, it would be considered a suspense movie more than anything else.
A thriller.
Yeah, maybe a thriller, but not necessarily a horror movie.
It's with Don't Breathe. Have any of you seen Don't Breathe? I think it's called
Yeah,
Don't
I've
Breathe.
seen Don't Breathe.
Yeah, that's more so a thriller than a horror movie, but it could also be
Yeah.
classified as a horror movie.
What's the difference? You consider difference?
A thriller is like suspense that doesn't really have a payoff. It's like being chased by a monster. It's like it's
but never
constantly
getting
scary.
away.
Yeah.
So it's like
doesn't
it's there's a movie that I made my boyfriend watch. It's called The Circle. It's on Netflix right now. And literally it's just aliens abducting people to kill people. And then one person out of 20 survives and gets to get off. And I mean, spoilers if you really want to watch it, but if not, okay. This guy, like, there's a little girl in it, and there's a pregnant lady in the entire movie that you're watching, and he's advocating for one of them should live. And he ends up killing both of them. And, like, he's, like, basically coming off as this, like, super Christian guy, this super nice guy that's like, I know I'm gonna die, but you know I'm gonna make sure at least one of you lives, because of course the pregnant girl must live because she has a baby, even though he actually had to kill the baby afterwards too. And then he was finally able to get off. And it's literally so suspenseful, because you're thinking like, oh my god, like we're gonna know what's going on. No, it's just these aliens want to kill people, and then they're just continuously doing it.
So, like, basically an alien version of Hunger Games.
But not, because you have, like, 2 minutes, and you're not allowed to leave your little tiny circle. And, like, everyone gets to vote.
I think I hate aliens, and I think they're probably in my top 3 biggest fears.
Well, you never see the aliens. You just see the ships.
Yeah. But anyways, I think the best alien horror movie besides Alien is Signs. If you've seen Signs, I think that's a great movie. Basically the movie's about, like, I don't know, it's kind of like a mix of a psychological horror and alien movie. It's like a barn, well, not really a barn, I guess, just out in like the country, and it's like this family, and I forget what happens exactly, but they basically find a picture of them lying dead with like UFOs over them, and they don't know where the picture came from. And so then like they start finding like crop circles and stuff, and they know these aliens are gonna come and kill them, and they even find like these VHS tapes of like aliens invading like a country and stuff. I don't know. It's a very, very freaky, weird movie. Really freaky soundtrack.
I think the third scary movie ended up spoofing it, because that sounds familiar. I think I've seen that.
Yeah. I also like Jeepers Creepers, the first one.
I actually haven't seen that one, but I know the little sing-song from it.
You really should see the first Jeepers Creepers. It is unfortunate. I would say that much.
Unfortunate. Okay. There's a Stephen King movie that, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of, and maybe I made it up in a dream. But basically it's like this house that has a giant ass hornet's nest, and just continuously, like, no matter how many times they kill it, it just like keeps coming back.
Well, I remember this horror movie when I was a little kid. I forget, it was the early 80s, that I forget what it was called, but I remember this one scene where these bees or something, or hornets, basically attacked this guy and killed him, just like swarmed him.
I think you might be thinking of The Mist.
Maybe.
Possibly. But I'm
that might be it. But it was like, it was weird because it was like a farmhouse. I don't know. I honestly, to be honest, I could have made it up, because I've asked my mom about it, and she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Okay."
I hate that when I sometimes I can't tell a dream from reality. I'm like, did I this really happened to me in real life, or just I see some show or made this up, or what? Dream this or what?
First dream.
There's a shitload of movies I've seen as a kid that I never found out the name of until I accidentally came across the movie. Like, I would always remember a certain scene that was playing on the TV at the time, but then since I didn't know the name, I would try looking it up years later and I could never find it, but until I accidentally come across it for whatever reason.
There's one that's like really good, and it's kind of like a spoofy action movie, and it's called Tuxedo. It has Jackie Chan in it.
Okay.
But like for whatever reason, like I just still remember it, and it's like it's about this tuxedo, but there's also like these bees that have this special venom in them, and this one I know I didn't dream up because my mom knows about it and has actually actively found it for me to watch.
Oh, bees. Only thing I really am legitimately scared of, not because I'm allergic to them.
Not the bees.
Oh my god. I actually have only two of those scenarios come to mind where I saw a scene of a movie as a kid, but then I didn't rediscover it until years later. Like the first case was a movie where this guy was wearing a chicken suit, and it turns out he was just trying to like bust a criminal inside of like a house. And I later come to find it was freaking U.S. Marshals with Tommy Lee Jones years later when I got it in a double feature at The Fugitive. And then the second time was when this girl was trying to escape a guy on a boat, and then and he ends up shooting a guy trying to rescue her on the shore, and he recaptures her on the boat. That one I rediscovered by complete accident. It was during the week when I was watching my dog. I go up to the master bedroom where my mom and dad normally sleep, because that's where the dog likes to sleep. And I just turn on the movie channels, and I'm just flipping up in the channels. And then I come across Along Came a Spider that starred Morgan Freeman. And the exact same scene started playing a couple of minutes later. I was like, what the fuck? I found it? Didn't think I was ever going to rediscover scenes like that. But
Well, yeah, we usually end the podcast where Snick tells a stupid story of him as a kid.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Did you get any ideas from our topics today?
I have a story real fast about bees. So one time at my friend's house, I think a birthday party was going on, and my friend's brother was running around, and there was a hornet's nest like in the ground, and one of his cousins, like an idiot, got a plastic bat and whacked the ground, and you just hear and then he looks left and right, and he whacks it really hard again, and then a bunch of like wasps come flying out and start attacking my friend's brother.
Oh,
Speaking of bees, do you know if the African bees are still a problem in South America, or Southwest America, or are they problem? Haven't heard about anything about them in a long time.
I don't know.
Do you know, Mario? You live in that area.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
First off, I've never seen African bees in person, so I wouldn't really know. And second, all I know about African bees are that they're fucking ruthless as shit, because I've heard of a story on the internet where it's like this guy attacked an African bee because it was on it or something, and apparently somehow the dead bee sends a signal to the nest that was nearby, and the dude got so fucking swarmed, the bees went inside his mouth and was fucking stinging him from the inside. And yeah, let's just say that man did not have a good day. That's literally all I know about African bees. Other
I
than
haven't heard
that,
about
I
them
don't
in a
know.
while. I mean, in the 90s, there was a big scare about them going up north and stuff. But I think
They can't survive up north.
Yeah. And I swear, that sounds like a freaking video game enemy. It sounds like something you'd find in Halo.
Yeah, but
The purse.
it's like a real fucking story that happened in real life, so yeah, fucking keep me as far away from African bees as possible. I'm already afraid of bees to begin with. Fucking don't let me near African bees.
It's like those freaking hawks that when you get like in a mile radius of their nest, they will hunt you down. Because, I don't know, they're paranoid. I forgot what type of hawk they are, but there was a photo, like, in this book, like, describing the hawk, and it was chasing down this bicyclist, and I'm just like, I hope that's Photoshopped, because, there was just a photographer taking pictures of a hawk chasing down a bicyclist, and I don't know what to tell you.
So, Snick, did you get any memories from our topics today of your past?
Any stories involving today's topics? Well, I did briefly acknowledge how I watched the Scream and Final Destination movies quite a bit when I was a kid. And only getting glimpses of the other ones, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, and whatnot. Don't really have much to say about those. But I did have some unrelated topics that Adam suggested to me before we began. So we have a choice. Who wants to hear about me going to the mall when I was a kid, or a really stupid beach story that I guarantee is probably gonna have Mario banging his head?
Beach story.
Damn it.
Beach story.
Wow, you didn't even
Yeah, just
hesitate.
keep in mind that these stories can get very ridiculous. Like, there are too many to tell, but let's just say, when I was in, like, I affectionately call myself from the different time periods elementary school schnick and middle school schnick, because they were both, because I was like a completely different person in those eras, and
I'm just like,
this one's an elementary school schnick story, so it's guaranteed to be stupid.
I'm just trying to imagine what this beach story could be. I'm just like, okay, so here's Snick, and here's this giant crab.
Vandelia's gonna get pissed because it involves a certain character. So we're going to the beach. I don't remember when we went to the beach, but we park our car and we're meeting up with a friend of mine and his family. Me, my mom, my sister, we're meeting up with his mom, my friend's mom, himself, and his sister. We're starting to walk into the entrance until I don't remember exactly how it went down, but what I probably did was I yelled for them to wait. There was something very, very important I had to do first. I don't think anybody's ready for this. Are you ready?
I'm gonna fucking brace myself. Okay, here we go. What the fuck is this bullshit?
I'm gonna cringe hard when I say this. I started reenacting Dora the Explorer.
Why? Why?
Oh god.
And can you repeat which one were you, elementary or middle?
Elementary.
Oh no. Wait, so you stopped people because I had to reenact Dora.
So if you don't, it's an inside joke, but we played a Dora the Explorer game one time and it just drove us crazy for Let's Play.
If you could even call it a game.
I played a freaking Dora PS1 game, and freaking I was able to go Stephen Hawking on that shit. I literally sat in a Stephen Hawking pose, and I was able to just still control it, because all you have to do is hold the stick.
Oh my god. There was one part in the game where he had to take a boat and ride it across this river or whatever, and there was alligators. The whole gimmick was that you were supposed to press the X button to make Dora go faster, but instead what Schnick did was he just sat there while saying shit like, "Oh, alligators, din din, fresh meat, and the whole time Dora was super slow, and the game didn't punish him for it. He didn't do anything, no punishment, still got through it, just at a very slow pace. And that was literally all that happened. They were so lazy that they didn't bother to put any punishment. So, yeah, it's not a very good quote-unquote game.
What do you expect?
Also, not to mention that the levels
the
are...
only character that got a freaking EC-rated game on the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube.
Also, the fact that the levels are, like, so linear that at most you might get, like, a straight 90-degree curve or turn or whatever. But
the first map point was always a bridge or a river.
Yeah, it was too. They had like the same elements for each world too. It's like, really?
Left turn. Another left turn.
Left turn, left turn, left turn, left turn, square.
Podcast episode, she was gonna expect us to describe the inner workings of a fucking Dora game.
Yeah, we're getting off topic though. Screw that Dora quote unquote game. Back to stupid elementary schnick.
So yeah, freaking, I made them walk across the bridge while I imitated the goddamn theme song. Yeah,
oh
I did.
My god.
And I made them stop at 3 points while I did the goddamn shit.
Inside joke. What? 3 times?
Yep, I did.
Oh my god!
I wanted to get to the last point. I just made them run on the beach, and then goddamn, I was like, "Oh, we gotta do it again to leave," and then they're like, "No." I'm surprised they let me do it the first fucking time. God damn, my mom should have pulled me to the side. It's like, it's not a real thing.
Did you do the "We Did It" dance then?
I swear to God, if you say yes to that question, I swear to fucking God.
You're in luck. I don't remember.
That's not helpful.
Yeah,
that's not helpful. That poor desk. Yeah, poor wood. Oh no, I'm chipping wood with my face.
Why must you hurt the desk? He didn't do anything.
Why must
on the desk this time? I didn't hear it.
Oh, well then I'll let you hear it again. There. There you go.
Oh, fuck.
Alright, I'm gonna stop now because I don't want people to freak out in this house.
Alright, so that's not your story for today?
That's like the newest worst thing I've heard
that's one
Schnick
story, but I can tell them
tell.
all stories.
No, we can save it for next time.
That was the most ridiculous story I've heard yet.
So what have we learned? So what have we learned today?
Wait,
today,
yeah, what'd you say?
I said that was the most ridiculous story I've heard yet. You stop.
Yeah?
Like, there was the previous one where you were doing the reenactment of Emperor's New Groove, but this is just flat out ridiculous. Like, wow. Like, you specifically had to stop people from proceeding on until you were done doing your stupid thing in your own world. That's what gets me. That's what gets me.
Went along with it, especially considering the fucking fact that we actually had goddamn people that we're meeting up with. Like, let's just say that's one of the freaking elementary school schnick stories that I actually began to regret not long after it happened, and that's kind of rare for stories like that.
Wow.
So what if we, again, what I say, what have we learned today? We learned that I would have, if I would have went to elementary school Schnick as a kid, probably. We've learned that people have different tastes in horror games and slasher fix. And
speaking of taste, I have no more chocolate ice cream left, and I'm sad. Anyways, go on.
Anyways, we've learned that sometimes jobs come and go, and apparently sororities don't haze people anymore. And we've learned, what's our first topic? Oh yeah, we learned that sometimes the greatest hits aren't really the best games.
We've also learned,
Just like Just Dance.
We've also learned that people love to fucking act stupid and start shit.
Scream like
Basically.
Oh, I'd like to thank Moma's Kickin. Moma, how you pronounce your name?
Momo ass kicking.
Momo Ass Kicking for being our guest today. Hopefully you can be make an appearance in another episode in the future if you have time.
I'm sure, although I will start closing for work again soon.
Yeah, I work I work third shift, so
Nice.
so yeah. Come check out her channel. You're mostly on Twitch, right? Not on YouTube.
Yeah, just on Twitch.
Yeah, I've mastered the. I've switched over to Twitch lately myself, and so is MarioTube's going on Twitch now a little bit.
I'm dual streaming on YouTube and Twitch just cause.
All right, so check us out next Saturday if you have time, and check out her Twitch channel. See guys, if you like horror games, she's pretty good at them. She's gets killed very graphically.
You get killed all the time.
Little apocalypse.
Right, and as I always say, never stop learning and enjoy the randomness. We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.
I have 1%.